Greetings from Costa Rica. Thanks very much for joining us for this Costa Rica Real Estate Forum IX, or number 9, for those of you who aren't brushed up on your Roman numerals. Today we have special guest Randy, who closed on his Costa Rica home exactly, or more or less, a month ago, on March 17th, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Randy, thank you very much for joining me. Today, we're going to be asking him what it was like to close on his home and immediately move in the same day, which is what he and his lovely wife, Irene, did. We're also going to ask him about the first month in the home, getting used to the community. You've even dealt with car stuff at this point, I think.
Yes.
They've acquired a vehicle. They've acquired a home. They moved directly in, and you've now been through one of the busiest tourism weeks of the year, Semana Santa, or Holy Week, which is a pretty frantic and crazy time of year in our area. So we're going to ask Randy about all of that at the very end of our broadcast today. I'll be happy to do something positive rather than my rager of the week. This week, I wanted to do the client of the week. And I think we can all have an idea as to who that might be for generously sharing their time and insight. But anyhow, that special client of the week will get a free dinner at one of our local restaurants, the Guacamaya Lodge, one of my absolutely preferred destinations for an absolutely spectacular date night on me. But like I said, we won't be revealing that until the very end of the episode, so stay tuned. Again, today we have Randy for our real estate forum, and I want to stop talking and ask Randy to introduce yourself and tell us about your Costa Rica story from dreaming to unlocking the door.
Wow. Yes, it has really been a dream. It was something that we started over a year ago when we actually started talking with you from the United States and having an interest in having a life here in Costa Rica as well as in the US. And we really, Irene and I had envisioned this for quite a while. I said, well over a year. And just incrementally thinking about it and going about doing the planning and reaching out and gathering more information. And we wound up coming to visit a couple of times since we first were thinking about this. We were here maybe 5 years ago, not thinking about living here at all. And then we wound up having this as part of our life plan, just to maximize our enjoyment of two major environments that we love: the mountains where we live in Colorado, but then we also love being at the beach and the water, the ocean, the tropic life. And I'm known to be a pretty planful, methodical kind of person, so I wound up doing a lot of research on it. And after then being here last year, 2020, November and December, and spent a little bit of time with you, then we had identified the particular home that we really, really liked a lot. And then we wound up continuing the conversation with you, and the details, and then everything came together. I think it was in February when we put an offer on it.
Yeah, it would be tough for me to remember the exact date. I mean, we were negotiating since 2022. I think the original offer was back in that year at the very end of it.
That's right.
And then finally it was your new offer that was in early this year, whether it was January or February.
That's right.
Where you guys, had really put things together. I could feel that you decided it was, what you really wanted. And let's talk a little bit about what Randy and Irene have acquired. I'm really happy to show off a couple things here. First of all, I want to note that we're about to visit CostaRicaMat.com, a new website where you'll be able to explore some of the most amazing locations in Costa Rica as a 360-degree virtual tour. CostaRicaMat.com is currently in its infancy, and I think we really don't have it published yet, right, Dimitri? It's not published, But the link you are about to see is on CostaRicaMat.com, and that's significant because it represents a whole heck of a lot of work done by my amazing team. But here we are looking at our darling community of Playa Junquillal. Huge shout out to Victor on the drone work and putting this together. You can go to Tierra Pacifica, which is the community in which Randy and Irene have purchased. Here we're looking at the gorgeous amenities. Randy, Irene, and I played Rummy Cube right here on this table. I will not disclose who won the game and who lost the game. It was more important that everybody had fun, right?
Yes, we did.
So anyway, not rubbing it in. We're going to go up first and head over to where in this, oh no, the link is missing. You used to be able to see the 3 homes there. Oh, shucks. Well, we'll have to go up again and just find Randy and Irene's house here. Just give me one moment and we will be pulling up. Nope. Sale pending. Oh, this is probably it. Okay. Here we are, folks. I am very happy to present Casa de Gratitude, home sweet home now for Randy and Irene. Look at the gorgeous home here as we take a quick stroll. This came fully furnished and turnkey. It was an extremely high quality home that people could tell, as they were visiting it. Everybody who looked at it could see that the people who built it put a lot of love into the property. It was well designed. It's got this massive porch on the back, these sliding doors, all accordion open, or rather, they're accordion doors so you can connect the space together. And everything is just spectacular. And not to mention, it's about 300 feet from the Tierra Pacifica pool right across the way, where I'm sure Randy and Irene have been enjoying listening to my kids shrieking their heads off. So tell us a little bit more. You guys, I also wanted to bring up and show people, here is us at closing on March 17th. Yeah. We signed the documents in the home on the porch. It was awesome. The seller is there at the end of the table. The lawyer is there on the left, and Randy and Irene are about to move in. So basically, the seller was able to show you around the house and explain everything, and you just moved in that night.
Yes.
How'd it go, and what were your first nights like?
Yeah, it was actually really amazing that the seller was able to be there and to do it, and for us to be able to close on our screened-in porch table, like you had shown the picture, was just phenomenal. It actually wasn't planned, as you know, and it just came together for convenience of a common place to meet. And it actually happened to be my birthday the day after we closed. So we literally moved in. The sellers stayed for about 2 hours to show us how everything worked. And so we knew how to actually operate everything in our home, which came fully furnished. And then to wake up the next morning and to go out on the back screened-in porch to hear the wildlife just in our backyard, and to start living in our place, it was truly surreal.
Cool.
It really was. And even now, we've been here for just over a month, and we still, on most days of the week, we'll look at each other and say, is this still really happening? It's truly phenomenal.
Yep.
And the word surreal comes up a lot because we have dreamed of this for a while, and to actually be living it now is just phenomenal.
Yeah. No, and really, it wasn't just an overnight thing. There was a long-term process to acquire the home, find the right one, and that made it all worth the wait. I think it even makes it more surreal when there was that long-term process of first looking for the right spot, finding the right home, and then we did that negotiation and really coming around to something that worked for everybody. So it wasn't, it was over a year in the making, and I'm super thrilled you guys are happy. Tell everybody about Semana Santa and what that was like living. So Semana Santa was finished a week ago. It's Easter week in Costa Rica. Everybody comes out and becomes tourists in Guanacaste. What was it like dealing with Semana Santa here?
We had no idea it was coming, and you actually informed us about, oh, and by the way, this week coming up, it'll be like lots more people coming in, which for being the size of Junquillal, which, was not that many, it wasn't like crowded beaches like in the US at all, but quite a bit of people came in, partying going on the beaches, as well as in Paraíso, up the road, festivities and whatnot. But it was, even though it was really festive, it didn't feel like debaucherous or anything that was out of control or anything. At least I didn't feel that way.
It's felt, especially our community benefits from, the Costa Ricans that come out tend to go out to the beach as early as they can get themselves organized, coolers packed, everything ready. And they'll spend a ton of time there, really just hanging out and relaxing. And they're, it's sort of like by 5 and 6 p.m. when the sun sets, everybody just sort of mellows out and goes home. And it can be, especially in our area, where not a single bar is open past 8,
Right.
where there's not a single like dance venue. We had the fiestas. They put that on, for the second time this year in the community. That was definitely loud, but sort of concentrated, and you just avoided going, so it really didn't affect life too much unless you went to it.
Yeah, that was our experience of it. We heard into the early evening sometimes a little bit of the music, from, I forget if that was that from Paraíso maybe? Okay. And again, it wasn't overly loud, but yes, by standards of party time and party atmosphere kinds of things that I'm used to, it was very sedate. And I thought, if this is one of the most crowded party-like atmospheres of the entire year here, I'm kind of like, this is my style of that. It didn't feel over the top.
That's an intriguing thing he just sort of slipped in there, that this party atmosphere was very sedate compared to the ones you're used to.
Ooh.
Do you want to talk more elaborate on the history of parties that were, sorry. Anyway, we won't put him that much on the spot.
I would like to mention something, though. You alluded to it earlier, and I didn't pick up on something that I think that you might be wanting me to describe a little bit. When thinking about coming here to Costa Rica, to find a place in Costa Rica, something that we did do with the planful, methodical approach that I usually use when trying to figure out a major life decision, was when we came down here about a year ago, 2 times ago, we had planned to visit many different beach communities. We knew we wanted to be near the beach. And we actually went to about 15 different beach communities between Semana in the south and all the way up to Playa del Coco in the north, and spent anywhere between a couple, 3 hours to 3 or 4 days in a wide variety of beach communities, including Junquillal. And so Junquillal won out. So even though we had the opportunity to experience and to potentially choose a different community, we actually chose Junquillal because it really fit what it is that we were looking for.
Awesome. No, I'm glad to hear that. And, I'm somebody who did zero comparison shopping and just sort of landed here. But, you hear this sort of specific preference for Junquillal that's based on, especially in the range from Samara up to Coco.
Mm-hmm.
What other beaches would you feel were most comparable or the closest second?
Yes, yeah. Playa Avianas.
Okay.
We like that. It's small, very outdoors, be in the ocean kind of experience. Another one, Samara itself, we enjoyed quite a bit. It's more of a laid-back kind of place. It's larger than Junquillal, though smaller than Tamarindo, but it definitely had more of that chill vibe to things where it's like, yeah, we enjoy ourselves, but it just felt like it's kind of people are just very mindful about the impact they're having on others in the environment while still enjoying nature and these kinds of things.
Very cool. So I wanted to quickly bring up the map to show people the area that Randy is discussing. By the way, if anyone wants to ask Randy a question, get some tips, feel free to post a comment, whether you're watching live or on a replay. We could always get some more information from him down the line. But essentially, he's been looking at he and Irene rather here, really about halfway down the entire Nicoya Peninsula, and Playas del Coco, which is up in this area up here. And really, you find a lot of people looking at this corridor because it's all of the beaches that are within a reasonable driving distance of the Liberia airport. Yes. And as a result, those are the communities that are, many of these communities are the places that have naturally evolved amenities and communities that appeal to expats. Randy was talking specifically about Avellanas to the north of us. We're down here in Junquillal. Randy actually purchased the home in Tierra Pacifica next door, which is a gated ecological community somewhat here in Junquillal, but Avellanas is up here as well. It especially was a very quiet community 2 or 3 years ago as you were searching. It's starting to grow, for sure. You've got now 51 homes going in one project and a couple dozen in another, very small condos.
In Avellanas?
In Avellanas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 70 or 80 sort of condo homes that are already in the sales process. And there will be more. You've seen big chunks of land over there get sold. Because up at Avellanas, they have an incredible surf break down here in Junquillal. You very often see that folks who aren't quite as focused on surf end up here in our community. What kinds of priorities were top of your list as you were driving up and down the coast and checking places out?
The priority was having a place that didn't seem to have a big party atmosphere.
Okay.
And we can talk more about my previous party things another time over a beer or two.
Yeah, he's from Colorado, remember.
Yes. And so it was a place that was very ecologically minded, sustainability oriented, very community focused, because we wanted to really plug ourselves into the community with expats, ecos, and just the variety of what a place would have to offer. Close to the beach, clean beach. I love body surfing in particular. So having good waves, but not like over the top huge surf waves, which is not what I'm looking for. But also really close by, I love snorkeling, and Playa Blanca is just around the point, and is more secluded, smaller surf, more interesting things underwater to look at. Kind of putting all those things together really is what we're looking for.
I was gonna see if we could bring up again the tour, and I can show you a couple of these beaches we're talking about here. Again, excitingly, this is on CostaRicaMat.com, the greatest upcoming Costa Rica real estate website in the pipeline. Up here is Playa Blanca. And this is something I absolutely love about Costa Rica is that, if you don't like one beach, you just need to go 500 yards to the north and check out the next one, and then just keep doing that because they can be so different. So, looking down here, we're on Junquillal. Sandy, dark sand beach, definitely not as dark as they come in Costa Rica, but it's actually sort of behind us now. And as we fly around the corner here, we're going to see if this drone flight goes up to Playa Blanca, just the next beach north that Randy was talking about. And here we're, in the lost world, it's a narrow sort of, are we there right now? I'm trying to do this live and yeah, there we are. So on Playa Blanca, you have white sand, you have a bluff that goes up, and no development currently, or rather just a private compound here. I do want to make sure that my audio hasn't cut for any. Oh, good. It doesn't seem like anyone's bringing it up. But anyway, this is Playa Blanca here. Yes, I agree. This is very cool media. And if you'd like to get access to it, you can send me an email. Later in the broadcast, Dimitri will put my email address up there. But anyway, this is Playa Blanca here. The cool thing about these 360-degree videos and drone flights, as I'm showing off blatantly, is that you can absolutely stop the video whenever you want and scroll around and check out your surroundings. So here at Playa Blanca, Randy was mentioning the snorkeling. They have these rocks there. Are you experienced enough a snorkeler to tell us what sorts of fish you're seeing there, or is it just the blue ones and the yellow ones and the parrotfish?
The parrotfish, there you go, the one that I recognized. Not yet, though. One of my previous career aspirations as a teenager was to be a marine biologist. So I do plan on researching more so that I can actually become more familiar with everything that's there.
Yeah.
But it's of all the beaches that we went to in this area, it was, I thought, by far the nicest of those for snorkeling.
Yeah. I haven't been there in years. It's embarrassing because we sort of got into that thing with kids. It was not good to go snorkeling for a long time.
Right.
Just last week, we went snorkeling with friends down off the southern edge of the peninsula at this place that we had driven specifically to go see and get a boat to. Our friends are avid, he snorkels a ton. He's a surfer. He goes everywhere and looks at what's under the water. And he said, there's nothing here that I don't see outside of the reefs in Junquillal. He's out further than Blanca. He's going out to this reef that forms one of our breaks. But I was really surprised to hear that and super pleased. I've actually seen, and this is an amateur perspective 100%, but when I used to go out to the rocks on the southern end of Junquillal 10 years ago, it was absolute bare rock all around the tide pools. And now you have a proliferation of a ton of corals. This brain coral sort of came up one really huge section of the rocks and stuff that I had never seen before.
Interesting.
I think that it might have to do with a lot less agricultural runoff. This used to be a rice farm behind the estuary. Every year it was producing, gigatons of rice. Those are no longer active because Guanacaste isn't quite as agricultural. And you start to see some of this stuff sort of come back. So I'm stoked you've been able to take advantage of that. You also mentioned you went on a local boat tour about a year ago. How was that?
Enjoyed that quite a bit. It's a very touristy kind of a thing. But getting out on the ocean is just phenomenal. It just feels so nice. Get the breeze, smell the salt air, get to see the aquatic life. When we went just this past time in November, we actually saw whales, humpback whales that were offshore, and the captain just happened to spontaneously see them, diverted the trip, went over. We got within maybe 100 yards of a pod of 4 or 5 humpback whales, and it was just one of those spontaneous things that just happens. There's just so much, wildlife around here, and including in the ocean.
And immediately he joins the huge number of people who've moved here and immediately seen things that in 15 years I've never gotten a chance to. Largely because, I haven't been there at the right time, etc. But very cool. I'm glad you had those experiences. And you also went on the kayak tour on the estuary, I think, with Sylvia.
We did that with Sylvia last time when we were here.
Yeah, that's not a very touristy thing at all.
It was. We enjoyed it a lot. As you know, lots of mosquitoes and bugs back there, so you have to be prepared with all that. but just taking the right precautionary measures, just seeing, this amazing, huge, high canopy that is like a big, tunnel you go through with all the trees as you're going up the estuary, and to see the crabs that are dark bodies with these phosphorescent yellow claws on them and everything.
Yeah.
The birds, it was phenomenal.
This is one of the top reasons that traveling around in Costa Rica can be so much fun, and it's small family businesses or just directly, people who do one of the various ecotourism activities for a living. Sylvia was actually having a beer next door when we started this broadcast. She had clearly just done one of these tours because her kayaks are in the back of, Chicho's truck. It's the smallest, most humble little operation, but she knows every species of wildlife, bird, fish, reptile, everything that's there, the plants, everything she can tell you about. And you can spend hours with one of the best local guides, somebody who stood down those rice farmers when they were cutting down mangrove trees. On a tour that I'm sure she might not be 100% up to date on all of her insurance policies, and you probably didn't have the right size life preservers, but this sort of stuff is absolutely awesome. So when you're in a new place, you can find 10 or 15 people who do this sort of stuff. I was going to say, I bet you could get somebody to take, if you like spearfishing or anything like that, that could be an option to have a local guy take you out and do that. I was also baffled. The guy that we went snorkeling with said at the end of the tour, he could tell that my friend wasn't too impressed. He said, "Oh, you want to go see some sharks?" And I was like, "Oh, it's going to take a while. My kids are tired. We need to get back to the land." He said, No. It's right over there. We anchor. It'll take us 5 minutes. And he took us directly to a spot, anchored. We got in the water, and he swam over just looking around and then signaled. We dove down in, and there they were, all these little white-tipped sharks. He knew the spot in the ocean, 80 meters off this rock to the left, exactly where he could show us white-tipped sharks like that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And they have all of this knowledge. The guy that's going to take you snorkeling or, these kinds of people are just incredible.
So many things that we have left. I mean, we just got here, full time.
Yeah.
So as much as we've already experienced and have enjoyed it so far, we feel like we've really just begun the journey because there's so much that's in the ocean and near the ocean.
Yeah.
That's not even to mention the interior of the country and going to Lake Arnall and going to all these other places that we plan to take trips eventually. So it's so much here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny, I think our power is going out, so we may only have a few seconds of internet left here, folks. Actually, no, it doesn't actually seem that was going to happen. But one of the things I wanted to bring up is that every Friday at noon, we're giving our live Costa Rica real estate forums, inviting our viewers to ask questions about listings, schools, taxes, anything you want to talk about and ask me about. I'm more than happy to try and answer. My name is Matt Rosensteel. I'm a realtor and owner-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty, based here in Playa Junquillal. Again, Randy on my right purchased his home on March 17. That same day, they moved in minutes after closing. They brought their suitcases to closing. They've now been here a month. We're getting close to awarding our Client of the Week prize, which again is a delicious dinner at the Guacamaya Lodge, sponsored entirely by Costa Rica Matt. We did have a question from John. How are schools in your area for expats? And another person asked that I please do a video on those schools. It's absolutely part of my intention, and I actually have a video on raising kids in Guanacaste, and that pretty much goes over the approach to finding a school. The long story short is that there are amazing options. Lots of them cost a good amount of money, but when you're looking at Guanacaste, they're really not in every community. So if you're looking with kids to move to Guanacaste, You should first do all your research on the 12 available schools. There really aren't that many. Figure out which ones sound like they would be best for your parenting and what you want your kids to learn. And then really focus first on finding that school and then finding a property. Wanted to see if we had any other questions out there. Absolutely. Water availability from Seaside Creations. If you're asking specifically about Playa Junquillal, the area in which Randy has bought, I'll ask to hear from the mouth of the buyer himself. How has your water been in the driest month of Guanacaste's annual cycle, April?
It tastes fantastic. Straight out of the tap.
Yeah.
Which is another key feature of just being in Costa Rica, that, again, a very ecologically oriented country, and as well as with Junquillal and in our Tierra Pacifica neighborhood. So there's the regular asada water, and then, as I've learned, Tierra Pacifica had its own water source, or still does. And straight out of the tap, things taste fantastic to me.
Yeah, and the long story short is that we are in a very fortunate part of Guanacaste with a massive 11-kilometer long watershed that essentially provides more water than our area is currently using. Not everywhere in Guanacaste is like that, and there are plenty of places where there is good water. It's a myth that Guanacaste is just completely barren. Yes, certain places are facing shortages. Other places do have plenty. Do you have tips for foreigners who are watching and thinking about moving to Costa Rica? Is there some gadget you wish you had brought, or do you have, at this point, have you had an experience where you learned something you'd like to impart on the millions and millions of Costa Rica map followers out there?
That's a hard one. We plan for not having access to a lot of things that seem to be easy enough to get here. So we were actually impressed. We were prepared for much greater scarcity. The best place to shop for looking for more typical things that Western expats would be looking for are up in Liberia. So that's an hour-and-a-half drive near the airport, going to Price Smart and places like that. Well, one thing that we're very glad that we did bring down was a printer, not knowing if we would have a printer for the house, up for our computer. But we never had to look for one here, given that, I'm still working full time and just doing remote work from here and having some of the electronics. I think that would be something just to verify either that you could get it here or to bring whatever kind of electronics you want with you.
Yep, totally. I'm glad to hear that overall you find the availability of stuff to be greater than you expected. That can be somewhat of a disappointment to people.
Yeah.
And I even notice a lot of times on social media, they'll act like it's this big, that they'll try to overplay the scarcity almost because it was part of the vision of moving to Costa Rica. I want to go rough it down in the, jungle. They get here and they realize that really, Playa Tamarindo might be the only place with the right school, the right supermarket that provides them their, vegan protein option buffet. And soon they're living in a place that is, for all intents and purposes, as modern as wherever they came from. And they're sort of trying to grapple with, well, I wanted Costa Rica to be this return to the wild.
Right.
Instead, it's sort of been my comfortable transition to tropical life. Now, that's not everybody. There are brave pioneers out there who are bushwhacking it down. I hope that's not an un-PC word anymore, but that might be wrong and we'll just bleep it out or something, but who are headed south, going into unexplored areas of Guanacaste. But the vast majority of expats that I'm meeting right now are ending up in very comfortable surroundings where you can drive an hour and 15 minutes and get to a store with virtually everything you need.
That's been our experience, and we also feel fortunate that in Junquillal, And right here in town center, like where we are physically now at your office, it's the only game in town, but it's like there's a little grocery store. There's, most of all the basics that you need for any given moment. I literally walked here from my house in 5 minutes. We happen to live on the near the gate side of the community.
Yep.
So for all the basics, at least from food, restaurant, and basic gadgets for the house that you might need, it's very convenient. But certainly, if you have very diverse and high-end tastes for things, then you might have to drive a little while. But it all depends on where you're willing to go to get what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every week, again, I'm proud to present our Costa Rica Real Estate Forums live at noon Costa Rica time. I've promised that we would name my client of the week. Normally, I do the Rager of the Week, where I highlight the most negative thing that someone has recently said to me on social media. But today, it felt like life is just too short to have something negative in every broadcast. So I wanted to do my favorite client of the week. Somebody who's really been willing to share their time, a client who recently invested through my brokerage. This person is going to win a dinner at Guacamaya Lodge on me. They can drink and eat entirely. Thanks for all their contributions. And I'm very happy to announce that our client of the week for this week is Irene.
Yay!
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week live here on Costa Rica Matt.